Here at Be Freaking Awesome, we believe that life is too short to be anything less than extraordinary. Join us as we explore what it means to live authentically, grow continuously, and have a blast while doing it. Let's get started. Welcome, everyone, to today's episode of Be Freaking Awesome. I'm your host, Angela Belford, and our co-host is still in the in and outs of navigating the first few weeks of a new child in her family. So she'll be back soon. But joining me today is my good friend, Stacy Ryan. And I'm super excited to have a fellow podcaster help fill in during this time. Stacy and I met at Podfest in Orlando, and we will probably have to start a whole list of people that we and start a playlist, because that was such a really fun and impactful time. So Stacy, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello, Angela. Yes, Florida seems like a long time ago, but it feels like yesterday when I see your face or when we have done a few Zoom calls as the little posse that we met. But yeah, so we all have a story, right? Everybody, some are just willing to share it for whatever the reasons are. And I have my reasons. But I had an amazing husband, an amazing life, just living the best life we could. In our 30s, working the corporate life. And I was doing Ironman and all those crazy things at that time. Actually, it wasn't really crazy. I mean, they are crazy, but to me, it was super fun and super challenging. So all these things were happening that were good. My husband and I chose not to have kids and pets, so there was no responsibility outside of work and working out, basically. And then as we got older, in my mid 40s, randomly, I ended up with cancer myself. It was left tonsil cancer, came out of the blue. Thankfully, because I was healthy and fit going into it, I was able to, one, they gave me the most aggressive treatment because of that. Yay. Because they said my body could handle it, but it was really aggressive and really hard, but came out on the other end, mentally stronger for sure. And just kind of broke all the stats. So more than 10 years out from that. And then in my early 50s, about 6 years later, after my cancer journey, my husband was diagnosed. Unfortunately, his prognosis from the immediate was not great. Did everything we could to fight it. But he survived a little over a year before he passed away with that. And we as well, we tried treatments and nothing was working. So it was one of those things where we had to make this really hard decision that, you could take this little chemo pill that may prolong it for a little bit with really dumb, ugly side effects, or, not have side effects and feel halfway decent for a period of time. So we chose that route, which that's a whole story in itself, on what it feels like to do that. And so that's what we did. We took Jeep rides and had ice cream cones when we could. And unfortunately, he passed away in December of 2020. So then I was supposed to figure out this whole new life of mine by myself. My husband was an amazing, amazing human. Told me thousands of times that last year of his life to go live my best life. I have so much to offer this world, over and over and over again. And I promised him that I would. At the time, I said those words out loud, but at the time in my head, I was like, I don't know. I have no idea how I'm even going to remotely get close to accomplishing these goals, but yes, I will, honey. And then what?
I was just thinking, oh my gosh, you felt like you were lying to him a little bit.
It was like this guilty.
But you have to, because you can't say, I'm not going to do that. No.
I was never
that's a weird
right? It was a really hard thing, to ultimately say something that you knew in your heart may or may not happen. But in any case, I promised him. Thankfully, it's 5 years and I have accomplished those goals. I know he's proud of me. But anyway, 2021, I tried to figure out how to get out of bed every day. And I gave myself a pat on the back or a high five for just getting out of bed, brushing my teeth, and, eating breakfast. Though it was little by little, step by step. So then, as that year progressed, and I was getting, ounces of strength back, in 2022, I'm like, all right, I need to start setting some goals for myself and what this life looks like. I'm not new to setting goals professionally or personally. But I'm like, I want to try and do things. What if there is something in this world that I don't even know I have talents or skills or passions about? So I started making lists and random things through conversations with my girlfriends because I journaled through this process. They're like, you need to write a book. You need to do a podcast. I'm like, okay. Neither one of those were in my wheelhouse or even in my brain ever. And I started doing some research and found out, why wouldn't I do this? And part of my being is helping others, and that's what makes my heart happy. So I thought, if I share my story about what it's like to be a widow at this age and what I'm going through, maybe it'll help others know that they're not alone, because sometimes it's that feeling, right? So I created the podcast, bought the $90 microphone on Amazon, and I have a laptop. So you really download an app and here you go, you have a podcast, right? And you learn.
Shh,
uh,
shh, don't tell people.
there's a lot more to it. um but anyway, I created this podcast. It's called Whole New Life, and I talk about chronologically how I was dealing with my widowship, what I was doing. And I really wanted to ensure it wasn't like this woe is me venting opportunity. It was about what I was learning and how I was growing. I talked about when I fell, I talked about all the ugliness, but I talk about how I got back up. And that to me was the most important part of those episodes in my conversations. I wanted to provide people hope. And then I decided to write a book series about my life and the experiences that I just talked about, my Ironman days, my cancer journey, my husband's. And again, talking about the realness of it, but what my now self, what I look back at and what I've learned from that.
Mm.
And then here we are, it's 2025. So my passion has always been health and fitness in my adult life. And I decided to, on a random conversation in May this year, to open up a yoga and wellness studio. It's this cute little space where 8 people max, and we're going to talk about all things under yoga and wellness. And it's going to be with like-minded people. It's going to be a place to release worries that we can't change, and just be chill and zen. So that opens up next week. So yeah, I guess my husband is, I know I have conversations with him, and I know he's proud of me when I have accomplished all these things since losing him. I've also met another widow that we've been together for a year and a half, who also lost his wife to cancer. They were also together for 30 years. So we get it. And we cry and laugh together and figured out our whole new life. So that's my however many minute story.
There's your 6 minutes. This is Stacy in
Sorry,
6
I
minutes.
can't do it in 2.
No, no, there's too much to put in 2. That would have been disconcerting to
That's
put
the
that in 2.
synopsis.
So, but you skipped a step, because earlier this year when you decided to open the yoga studio, you also decided to stop podcasting about being a widow. You decided to stop really full throttle promoting your book about being a widow. Open if it's appropriate and there's people that need that, and you will come talk about it on a podcast or probably do a speaking gig. But that's not like I'm trying to get guests, I'm trying to like not hawk your book, but like I'm all about, like, you stopped.
Yep, I stopped.
Wait a
What
minute,
what I
hold on. Are you sure you're allowed to stop? Because sometimes we talk about here, like, it's okay to start, even if you don't know the end, and, oh, the messy middle. And we do talk about celebration and getting to goals, but you, like, stopped. And
consciously so.
consciously stop. And how often do we think once we start doing something, I think it might be the thing that keeps people from starting things is they don't know that they can stop. So talk us through that stopping process because I'm fascinated.
I will honestly say I think starting a goal is hard, right? And we can come up with all the reasons on why not to start. And stopping is equally in that same category. If they weren't hard in my own brain, then why do it at all? Like, we should live our best life. We should challenge ourselves. We should take risks. We should start, and we should also, if applicable, stop. It's our life. We should decide this. So, from a podcast perspective, I was recording my episodes and I had, like I said, I chronologically did them through what I was going through from the moment, the year, the month after my husband passed away. When I am in conversation on my podcast and I'm talking about that specific topic, I am there. My brain is there. My body is there. I have uncontrollably bawled on my podcast because as I'm speaking about a moment in time, I am by my husband's bedside. I am in that doctor's appointment. I can remember what we were wearing. I remember what we felt in our heart. I have goosebumps right now just saying this. That was and is emotionally um, exhausting. It and so as I was doing it, it was hard. And when I was learning, when I was doing it, I learned a few things along the way about when to record them. You know, I need to get a workout in either before and or after, knowing that my adrenaline and my endorphins and my emotions will be at a whole nother scale. So I needed to know I needed permission. I do this anyway, but this was a purposely planned workout, knowing that I'm going to talk about something that's really hard. And as I was doing that, I spread them out. I spread out my conversations. But once I shared my story about what it's like to be a widow, I realized I don't I can't talk about this for the rest of my life on a weekly basis. I don't want to feel like I have to always I love working out. It is part of who I am, but I do it because I love it, not because I want to fix something like I'm an emotionally hot mess because of the situation I'm talking about. So it's like I would fall into this like emotional little sadness of oh my gosh, my heart hurts. I just talked about this topic and now I have to crawl back up. I know how to do that, but oh my gosh, it just takes a lot out of you. So I made this decision. When I started the podcast, I didn't know how long it would last, how long. I had no idea. I had no vision of it. I just knew I was going to talk about being a widow and share all of the stuff. But it got to a point where I'm like, I can't continue to do this and feel this. It's tearing me apart. I've said what I wanted to say. I've shared the ugliness, I've shared the learnings, I've shared the growth. If I continue to talk about this, then I'm not going to make forward progress. To me, I was kind
Mhm.
of just stuck.
Yeah.
And so I took a look at where I'm at in my life, and it's the same thing with my book series. People are like, "You should continue writing." Like, I don't want to write about the sad things in my life. It's just it's out there, and
Yeah.
like you mentioned, I'll promote it to audiences that it makes sense for. There's widow groups, cancer groups, but I will do it on the timeline that makes sense for me, sporadically throughout the year. But yeah, I made the decision to consciously stop the podcasting because my body, my mind,
It
body, and
was
soul,
it was done.
it was done.
Like it's okay. Like it's okay to start a new chapter. And I love this so much. Okay, we'll start at the beginning. For me, number one, um, sometimes my children tease me that I have published 2 books, I've written 3 books. It is why I talk to authors and say there are actually 4 steps of writing a book. You can write a book, you can edit a book, you can print a book, and then you can market a book, right? And I know this because I personally wrote a book and I never printed it. And the reason why, I remember the day I said to myself, I cannot talk about this crap for the rest of my life. And I went and I put it aside.
Yep.
Now, I for years believed that I picked it back up and was what became my second book. And when my son was on this podcast, he was like, no, you threw away a whole manuscript. And I'm like, nobody ever even saw that manuscript. You don't know. I went back and like skimmed it, and I had a friend of mine reread it. Isn't that sweet that she was willing to read my really gross manuscript? I love her. Anyway, and so I was like, oh my gosh, I did throw away manuscript. And it was because it was basically cathartic and it was telling my trauma story. And I think I needed to do that, right? I needed to tell that trauma story. I didn't need to tell everybody that trauma story though. Like, so if you've ever thought, oh, I want to write my book or I want to write a book or I want to write my story, you can do that without publishing it, like without printing it. You don't have to edit. You don't have to go through the whole thing. And it was healing. And there is something to be said about that.
There's so much to be said about just journaling and getting your thoughts from your brain to paper, or I typed in my iPhone notes a lot.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I feel like this release of,
yes,
it's out of my brain.
Yes,
Okay.
it's out of my brain. And now, it is literally something I can interact with. There are definitely snippets from that ended up in other books, but for the most part, that one's gone. The second thing is that when I did publish my book in 2017, so the first one I wrote in 2014, and at the end of 14 went, done. And I was like, Lord, you're going to have to call me to the next one. And it was in, I think it was in 2015, 16. Then he like, and I was like, oh crap, here we go. Anyway, so in my actual first published book, Be Freaking Awesome, at the end of it, I come out of the closet that I had been homeless as a child, and I guess it's in the book, right? And so then I decided that I wanted to take up homeless advocacy, because I'm like, I have lived experience. I can translate. I can talk to business people because they know me, and I can tell them about homelessness, and then people experiencing homelessness. Like, I remember the first time I went and was like laying out here was the process for the strategic plan. And I was trying to get buy-in from people that were currently experiencing homelessness. And I mean, they were not having it. And one of the guys was, and I go, dude, seriously, homelessness ain't even the worst thing that can happen to you. Excuse me? And I was like, yeah, well, in homelessness, my trigger warning coming up here, those of you that are longtime listeners know what's coming, but when we were in our station wagon, my mom was there, so therefore my stepdad didn't touch me. Like, it was better. And so he was like, oh crap, you get it. And I said, I do get it. And that like so much trust in that, but I had to keep telling that story. I gave a TED talk about it. And then I'm wondering why starting in 2019 and 2020, my therapist was going, I was like, why am I so easily angered? And she's like, you have unresolved grief. I'm like, no, I don't. I've been to therapy. What are you talking about? I've been to therapy. I kept telling her that over and over again. You know this. I've been to therapy. I don't have grief issues. Well, having told that story so much, it actually did kind of unearth those weeds that were back down, very deep, and that grief that had never been resolved. And so then the second, I think beginning 2021 is when I began that process of really understanding how grief works and all the things I had to grieve, and sort of, I say often that one of the top 5 skills we need as a human is to learn to tango with grief. And because tango is such an intricate and intimate technical dance. It's the only dance that I got sent to the chiropractor while learning. And so it's just it's a dance. It's a very difficult and intimate dance that we all have to, I think that if the better you are at it, the better you can deal with life. But anyway, as I've the last 2 years been 2 to 3 years been less of an advocate and more about the emotional processing journey from my second book, my nervous system calmed way down. Like, number 1, I'm not activating it by talking about that story as often, and number 2, I have learned how to navigate that, which is what the book is about, but I just am so intrigued, and I remember when we were doing our little Podfest peeps, like, group, and you're like, "I'm stopping this," and we were all like, "Wait, what? You're allowed to stop?" Anyway, so you have you gotten any pushback from people? Like, what are other people saying about this?
No, no, actually the opposite, quite
Good.
honestly. I think when you make um hard decisions about if you're hesitating on making a decision based on what you think other people are going to say, that is also a thing. I remember way back when I was 20 years old, I was engaged to someone before my husband, and I decided, wait, I don't even love this person. What am I doing? And I'm 20 years old, scared out of my mind because we already made this commitment. I thought I had to do it. And the reason I'm bringing this up now is uh, one day I'm just not myself, and my still lived with my parents at home, and my mom's like, what is going on with you? And I just all of a sudden I just released all this emotion about, like, I don't want to get married, I don't think I love him. And I never told her or anybody because I was scared, like, they would be disappointed in me, like, I already said yes, I have to do this, I have to follow through with what I said. And immediately my mom calls my dad into the room, and she's like, Donnie, Stacy, tell him. And they're like, then don't. Without hesitation, then don't. What do we need to do?
Hmm.
And I'm like, wait, that's an option? That moment
Oh, I have chills right now.
taught me so much about what I can do in
Mm,
my future self, right? Whether that was career related or anything related, it created this subconscious. When you get older, you realize things from your past and how you apply them now. And oh,
yeah,
yeah, that makes sense. So
yeah,
that's one of those things where I am going to make decisions for Stacy. The end.
mm,
And it's not that I don't include the people that I love within, you know, either brainstorming with them or, like, does this make sense? Right? Like,
right.
it's utilizing your resources and people you trust. But at the end of the day, it's my decision. And I am not going to apologize for it. I am not going to look back and question it. It's all of those things. So when I made the decision, and it was in January of this year, I brought back season 3, and all of a sudden I decided that's when I'm like, this is going to be it. I'm going to do 10 episodes. So I just made the plan. This is what the topics are going to be. And then I realized, not even knowing this, that I added 10 more episodes, and somehow I looked back and it would have been 30 total episodes, which is how many years I was with my husband. I'm like, oh my gosh, this just, like, makes so much sense. Like, this is what
Yeah,
I'm going to do. And so it was more of, when I shared that with people, they're like, high five, good for you for doing what you did and being brave to share your story during that time
yeah,
frame. But now you go on to the next thing, Stacy. It's
I love
okay.
that.
So I think once you know that people that you who love you and you love support you in those decisions, it makes stopping or changing the original goal okay.
Yeah.
The way you start something doesn't have to be the way it ends on how you visioned it. Maybe it takes another route for a different reason. So it
I
was, yeah, it
I
was a good
think
decision.
there's some times where we worry about the sunk cost, and I've done a lot of just volunteer wedding planning. Love college kids, and so I was working with this young lady who was getting married, and so I was her in town mom of the bride, was the joke, and we sat down for dinner or for lunch one day, and I said, okay, before we get started, like, you know that you can say no, right? You know you picked this guy as a rebound and that you're allowed to stop this, and you know that this is not the right decision. Okay, and we're 4 months out, and you absolutely can stop this. I want you to know that somebody sees that you're making the wrong decision. And longtime listeners have probably heard me tell similar versions of the story because I just am not afraid to tell somebody I think that they're making the wrong decision. And I said, here's the thing. If you wait, first of all, her response was, I can't stop. I've already bought the tablecloths. Hindsight, it is the most hilarious thing I've ever heard. Like, not that you bought the dress, that you bought the tablecloths. Okay.
Okay.
Which is the insanity we live in, right? Anyway, and then I said, but here's the thing. I don't care if you I don't care what your decision is. I'm going to support you. If you stop it between now and the wedding, if you stop it 30 days after the wedding, if you stay married for a year or 2 years or 20 years, I'm going to love you regardless of what decision that you make. I just want you to know that there's somebody that sees you and sees that this is not the right decision. And it happened to be the week of her birthday, which is why she knew to 9 months later, it's about 9 months after the wedding. And she calls our mutual friend and she's like, your mom was right. I don't know what to do now. And she goes, what did my mom tell you then? She goes, well, she said that I could leave even though I've been married for 9 months. And she's like, and it's true. I cried through her wedding because it was so obvious at the wedding. Anyway, but she ended up leaving him and was like, and look, it's still okay. It's still okay. You survived. I was like, it was a $3,000, whatever you paid for the party that we all had, and it cost you about $3,000 to get a divorce. It's still okay, and you're okay, and you're gonna make it. And it was so interesting to just walk through that process with her, to go like, you're allowed to stop. And I know I'm not saying take divorce, not take marriage seriously or to take it lightly or any of those things, but I love that you're saying like, pay attention to yourself.
Yeah.
And I talk to kids a lot in their 20s and I'm like, go on your healing journey before you get married, because if you don't, you will ultimately heal and you may not be still in alignment with that person that you were attracted to, because often we get attracted to the wounds. That I'm going way off. This is a whole different episode that you can talk about later. I gotta stop. Anyway, but the thing is that I also see this when people like, they have tragedy and they set up a nonprofit that is a research, we're going to raise money to support whatever. And I think that there is, I think it's beautiful. I think the world becomes a beautiful place and there's some great things. And every now and again I go, is this a good idea to still have to tell this story? Like, do you feel like you can quit at some point? And sometimes I don't know that they do feel that way. So
I think if it feels right in your heart, go with it. But if
yeah,
for some reason, as you're internalizing all of this and it is more challenging than rewarding, then yeah, maybe it's time for a change. But yeah, I made the decision, I got the support, and no looking back.
I love it. If you could leave our listeners with one thing, what would it be?
Believe in yourself. I've learned that even when life does provide challenges, and again, like I said in the beginning, we all have a story, right? And I was willing to share mine in hopes to inspire others and to let them know that they're not alone if they experience something similar. But throughout that whole process, even though it was scary as all get out, and I told you, I promised my husband the thousands of times that he said, go live your best life. You have so much to offer this world. And I'm like, okay, I promise, I love you. But inside, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. But I figured it out. I never gave up on myself. I believed in myself. I fell a lot. Like I still fall. I have an example of just falling last week when I opened up this new yoga studio and I was emotionally in my heart sad for some reason, but happy and elated at the same time. What I figured out was I just want to tell my husband. He's my person. And although I have this beautiful soul in my life and he is supportive and high-fiving me and we're celebrating this together and is all the things, it's not about, it was what I didn't have. And then my husband was the person. And I got this sad, gulp. But I know he's proud of me. I did it. And all the things that I've done, like I said, I never gave up on myself, even when it was hard, and even when I did fall, and even when I'm going to celebrate all the things that I have accomplished since losing him, and before. I'm not afraid to celebrate that either. I am proud of myself, and so it's because I believed in myself.
That's beautiful. Stacy, if people want to connect with you, where can they find you?
Oh my gosh, I have so many Facebook and Instagram pages now. Stacy Ryan, StacyRyan. If you go into my personal pages, Facebook and Instagram has links to all of my yoga studio. I have Stacy Ryan author pages. I have a Stacy Ryan author website. But my personal page has all of the links to not make it so confusing. Follow me, hear my story. My books are available on Amazon. My podcast is still out there called Whole New Life. I still get listeners, so there's people out there finding it, and hopefully, it's providing the hope and inspiration that they're looking for.
I think we had to reschedule this 3 times, and I'm delighted that we got the opportunity. I'm sad that we missed Sammy, that she missed this conversation, but I'm so excited to be here right at the beginning of this next new adventure for you. We look forward to keeping up with that.
Thank you.
Until Please follow us on the socials, subscribe to us, give us a review, all the things that we podcast hosts love to ask you for. We appreciate you guys. I love when I run into you and you tell me about oh my gosh, I was listening to this episode, and oh, I shared this episode with my friend. Love that. Text me, call me. Oh wow, I was about to start singing a song. Anyway, until next time, everyone, I hope you go be freaking awesome.